Chapter 2395, Pavilion Master has summoned you. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Godbrandy. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Space Principles. Pang Guang's eyes widened as he stared at Yang Kai in shock. That energy fluctuation just now definitely was from space principles. Moreover, they were manipulated extremely skillfully. This brat unexpectedly cultivates the Tao of space, and he can even use space principles to instantly teleport other people away. Is this really the strength of a Tao Source Realm cultivator? Before Pang Guang could further dwell on the matter, Yang Kai unleashed his myriad sword. This sword attack contained all of Yang Kai's strength, and even someone in the Emperor realm like Pang Guang was startled when faced with it. He raised his hand and summoned a butterfly-like defensive artifact. Hong. There was a large explosion, and the already damaged barriers around the cave mansion finally gave way. Without the protection of the barriers, the violent energy spread all around, causing Yang Kai's cave mansion to be directly razed to the ground. Shua shua. In the next moment, two figures shot out from the cave mansion, looking at each other from a distance. Pang Guang's face was twisted in rage. Boy, do you dare to mess with me? Yang Kai preferred to swallow the precious heavenly restoration lotus raw rather than give it to him. This caused his heart to clench in pain. Yang Kai sneered, so what? If you have the guts, come and fight me. This king is going to kill you. Pang Guang howled. Yang Kai flung back his hair and stood in mid-air, motionless. It was as if he hadn't even heard Pang Guang's words. City Lord Pang, I suggest you mind your own circumstances first. Hearing his words, Pang Guang's complexion changed and he restlessly began looking around. When he was in Yang Kai's cave mansion, it was next to impossible to detect him, but now their fight had caused such a huge commotion, almost every cultivator in Clear Sky City had been alerted. Cultivators living in the nearby cave mansions were already coming over to check what had happened, and several others were coming from distant places. Among them, Pang Guang sensed two auras that filled him with apprehension. After all, it was this same duo that had previously joined hands and injured him, forcing him to hide in Yang Kai's cave mansion to recuperate. Seeing that they were also coming over, Pang Guang had no intention of lingering there. After shooting Yang Kai a wicked glare, he hurried to leave the city. Soon after Pang Guang left, a crowd of cultivators had surrounded Yang Kai's cave mansion, pointing at the place and wondering what kind of calamity had taken place there. Whispers sounded as two figures descended from the sky, their dignified expressions causing the onlookers to look away. The ripples of power emanating from their bodies made it clear that they were both first-order emperors. Yang Kai was also vigilant as he glanced at the two figures. From the people gossiping beside him, he discovered that one of them was the Profound Cloud Pavilion's Pavilion Master, while the other was the Free Guild's Guild Master. Both factions had great influence on the island, mainly due to the Emperor Realm Masters backing them. From the looks of it, the duo had sensed Pang Guang's aura, and hurried over. Yang Kai closely observed these two and discovered that they had suffered some injuries as well. It seemed they hadn't come out unscathed from their fight with Pang Guang. Where is he? The Pavilion Master's eyes swept the crowd, eventually fixating on Yang Kai. Yang Kai hurriedly pointed in the direction Pang Guang had escaped to. He went that way. I ask you two sirs to take revenge for me. That scoundrel hid in my cave mansion, taking advantage of the fact that I... Yang Kai was still speaking when the two First-Order Emperor Realm Masters disappeared from his sight, obviously having no interest in whatever he was saying. These two were only interested in the various cultivation resources that Pang Guang was carrying on his person. If not for that, they wouldn't have started a fight with another cultivator in the Emperor Realm, even if they outnumbered the enemy. After the duo was gone, Yang Kai turned around and grabbed Lu Xianyun, who was lying on the ground. Let's move. The explosion just now had caused a huge commotion and razed to the ground his rented cave mansion. The city lord's mansion would definitely send someone over to investigate. If they started interrogating him, there were a lot of things that he'd find hard to explain. Questions like, why was an Emperor Realm Master hiding in your cave mansion? How did you survive the surprise attack of someone so strong? Yang Kai didn't know how to answer these questions, and had no intention of doing so in the first place. Therefore, the best course of action was to leave this place altogether. Sure enough, not even 30 breaths after Yang Kai had left, the masters from the city lord's mansion rushed over and began asking all around about the owner of the cave mansion, but after failing to discover the owner's identity, they retreated. Yang Kai brought Lu Xianyun to Ice Heart Pavilion and went inside. Alchemist Yang. Fan Xin saw Yang Kai and came over to greet him, a smile on her face. Did you finish your business? Sorry for making you worried. Yang Kai smiled and nodded. Just as she was about to continue, Fan Xin suddenly stopped, her complexion changing. Alchemist Yang, how did you get injured? Although he survived Pang Guang's surprise attack, the wound he received in the process was not light. At this moment, Yang Kai was in a rather sorry state. There was a small accident, Yang Kai said with some embarrassment. I came here in the hope of finding shelter. I was wondering if you could. Fan Xin gave Yang Kai a stern look. Alchemist Yang, was the huge commotion just now in the cave mansion area related to you? Yang Kai forced a smile. Just my bad luck. Fan Xin was surprised. She didn't expect her wild guess to be correct, and the revelation left her speechless. There weren't many people who dared to cause trouble in the inner city, let alone in the cave mansion area. Only the heavens knew what Yang Kai had experienced to be in such a sorry state. Junior sister Fan Xin, if our presence is causing you trouble, we'll leave right away. Yang Kai saw that she didn't move away to let him pass, and thought that she didn't want to get involved in this matter, which disappointed him somewhat. Fan Xin pursed her lips and smiled. In our Ice Heart Pavilion, troubles aren't troubles at all. Since you're our Ice Heart Pavilion's alchemist, where are you supposed to go if not to Ice Heart Pavilion? Please come in with me. Yang Kai's face brightened and hurried to cup his fists. Many thanks, junior sister Fan Xin. After entering Ice Heart Pavilion, Yang Kai relaxed. Although this place appeared small and the cultivators here were relatively weak, there was a true master assuming command here, which made this building far safer than the cave mansion area. As long as he could live here, Yang Kai and Lu Xianyun wouldn't have to worry about anything else. Fan Xin led the pair inside, leaving after making the necessary arrangements for him and Lu Xianyun. Yang Kai's wound looked pretty serious, but his physique was different from ordinary cultivators, so he would recover pretty quickly. But at this time, he wasn't in the mood to recuperate. Instead, he took out the jet black heavenly restoration lotus from the sealed world bead. The heavenly restoration lotus had 2 blossoms on one stalk, one black and one white. If only one was used, it could heal a damaged danshan or soul, which wasn't that heaven-defying, but if both blossoms were refined into a pill, they could greatly expand a cultivator's danshan and knowledge sea, which was something any cultivator would love. Even those that had reached the peak of the Third Order Emperor realm couldn't resist such a temptation. The expansion of one's danshan and knowledge sea meant that even their strength would increase. Previously, Yang Kai had been forced to swallow a heavenly restoration lotus, so he could no longer refine the complete heavenly restoration pill. And since the deed was already done, he might as well go all the way through with it. Grabbing the black heavenly restoration lotus, Yang Kai threw it into his mouth and swallowed it whole. Then, he took a handful of herbs from his space ring and gobbled them up, all of them auxiliary materials which were originally needed to refine the complete heavenly restoration pill. As it was already impossible to refine the complete pill, he could only resort to such a crude method to bring forth the effect of the black and white heavenly restoration lotuses. He would use his body as a furnace and his source chi as the fire to blend with medicinal efficacies in an attempt to draw out some of the heavenly restoration pill's efficacy. Although this would result in a huge waste of herbs, there was nothing Yang Kai could do about it. Pure medicinal essence exploded in his stomach, transforming into energy that spread to his bones and limbs. In the cultivation chamber, crackling sounds echoed non-stop as Yang Kai stayed focused and didn't let anything distract him, refining the lotuses wholeheartedly. He could feel that his danshan and knowledge sea were slowly expanding just as they would if he had taken the heavenly restoration pill. 3 days passed in a flash and Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes. He looked full of energy and had the appearance of someone that had raked in great benefits. He checked the condition of his body and discovered that his wound was now gone. Moreover, his danshan was 10% bigger compared to 3 days ago, and his knowledge sea was likewise much larger. With his strength having reached his current realm, it was very hard for him to advance further. He had to put in a lot of effort and needed luck as well, but now he'd only eaten the 2 heavenly restoration lotuses, and he'd improved so much. The efficacy of the lotuses was truly astonishing. After returning to his senses, he gritted his teeth and cursed, that bastard Pang Guang. If not because Pang Guang forced him to, Yang Kai would never have eaten the heavenly restoration lotuses raw. Recalling the event caused Yang Kai's heart to bleed. Getting a glimpse of the heavenly restoration lotus was already hard enough, let alone finding 2 blossoms like he had. His original plan to refine the complete heavenly restoration pill was now nothing but a lost dream. Crudely swallowing the 2 heavenly restoration lotuses brought forth less than 1/10 of the efficacy it would have provided compared to refining him into a pill. An alchemist like Yang Kai could never accept such a tremendous waste. All of his hatred was directed at Pang Guang. While he was brooding over this matter, someone knocked on the door to his room. Yang Kai was surprised, but he quickly reacted and went to open the door. Fan Xin was standing at the entrance, looking at him with a strange expression. Junior sister Fan Xin, is something the matter? Yang Kai asked. Honored master wants to see you. Honored master? Yang Kai furrowed his brow for a moment before his eyes went wide and he asked, do you mean Sir Pavilion Master? Fan Xin nodded, yes. I'm here on honored master's orders. I am to escort you. Yang Kai felt restless. He didn't expect that this reclusive Ice Heart Pavilion Master would suddenly ask to see him. This was a third-order Emperor Realm Master, and although Yang Kai had wanted to meet him to ask about the location of the exit, this sudden request made him restless. He could only wonder as to why he was being summoned so suddenly.